Welcome back to Cedar Studios. I had someone comment on one of my videos today asking me how I got my code to automatically format itself in a visually appealing manner. And what I use is a plugin called Prettier for VSCode, Visual Studio Code. And it's super useful. What it does is it formats every file you have along certain styling guidelines. That way things are consistent across your project and across all the websites you make. This can improve your speed with development dramatically because everything's just always in its right place. Take this file, for example. It's got a bunch of stuff kind of all crammed into one line. It's meant to be a JSON object. It's got like these weird braces on the beginning of a line that shouldn't be there. It's got empty spaces and empty spaces at the bottom, and it's got like lots of text just all together. It's hard to see where one name ends and the next begins. So what you can do is in VS Code in your extensions, just search for Prettier. Click on the first one that comes up. It's got 47 million downloads, super widely used. It's an opinionated formatter, which means that it has all these settings enabled by default that just makes it super useful. You can change anything you want, but just by default, you can just get really good style. So if I just save this file, it's going to apply the formatting. So I click save, and you'll see a lot of these things got put on their own line. They added some trailing commas here that you don't necessarily need for JSON, but just makes everything look nice and uniform. It got rid of like extra lines all over. And so in all of my projects now, whenever I save a file, my JSON is going to look nice and structured like this. It just makes it so much easier to jump back into a website you haven't messed with in a year and just know where things are and know how to fix them. A couple bonus things. You can, in the root level of your project, you can define a .prettier ignore file, and then any file type or file name you put in here, Prettier is not going to run on. So anything ending with MDX, that's a special type of markdown file which contains a lot of plain text. I tell Prettier, just don't touch that. I don't want you rearranging my plain text. And then a second file you can define as a config file like this. And this is kind of the boilerplate. And if you want to add any plugins to Prettier, you can. There are a couple I love that are Prettier plugin Astro and Prettier plugin Tailwind CSS because I love using Astro and CSS and use that all over. It's not enough to just put these in your Prettier file. You will need to, in your terminal, type in something like npm or yarn if you use yarn as your package manager. Install and then the name of these things, and that way they will be saved to your project in your project JSON. See, I have these here in my dev dependencies. So yeah, that's about it. I really love formatters that keep your code clean, consistent, because then whenever you jump from file to file, your brain doesn't have to like search for the line you need to edit. It's just right there in front of you. All right, let me know if you have any additional questions about this or whatever other techniques I use to speed up my development.